What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Dolphins Daily, your daily dose of Dolphins content with your boy Chris Kane. Let's talk about the Dolphins. Once again, we have to do a Dolphins show. We got to talk about injuries. I'm going to save the third injury because I'm already frustrated. So, Elijah Campbell, who's the defensive back for the team, is out with an injury. And also, James Daniels, which is problematic. Uh, one of our presumably starting guards is also out with injury right now. I think they're kind of assuming there's day to day right now. We don't believe it's going to be any long term thing. But anytime you're missing practice the week of the first game, I'm thinking that's more or less serious, or we're just like being super cautious. Elijah is, a reserve corner anyway. James, we very much need him to be on the field, right? He's our left starting guard. But we will see. We will see what happens with the injury. I guess tomorrow we'll get more updates on what that looks like. The injury that is already frustrating me is that Darren Waller also missed practice today. Now, if you watched the episode yesterday, we talked about Coach McDaniel came out and said, "Hey, we're very intentional about his practice habits. We're trying to fold him back into the team slowly. We're not doing 3 days in a row, 2 days on, a day off. Nothing to worry about it. Nothing to see here." I have been adamant, 10 toes down. I think he might be hurt, and they haven't said anything about injury. Totally cool. Guess what happened? Darren Waller out with a hip injury. Have y'all heard anything about a hip until right now? I haven't. When they kept telling us, "Oh no, he's getting back on the field, he's just getting conditioned," I said, "Don't make sense. Don't add up. No one is that deconditioned. I don't believe. Just give him put him on the field for shorter periods of time. The idea that he's just not going to be with the team, and I mentioned that this is very reminiscent of Odell Beckham with the team. Where Odell was out all offseason. No, I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to be healthy. Then we had to put him on a pup list. Then when he came into play, barely played, and it was like, well, what is this? If you just been hurt all offseason, it was like, yeah, kinda. I would have been fine if they said, "Hey, Darren's dealing with an injury. When he's healthy, we'll put him on the field." That's not what they said. Drew Rosenhaus has been out here beating his chest. He's ready to go. He's getting in shape. Game one, he's ready. And I was like, I don't know. Coach McDaniel, yeah, yo, hey, Darren's doing great. He's learning the plays. Darren's like, "Hey, man, I'm a little rusty. Trying to figure it out there." I'm like, "Hey, all that stuff sounds good." Then all of a sudden, yeah, he's not going to play in any preseason game. Cool. Is he going to practice this week? Kinda, limitedly. Walk through. Okay, that's fine. He'll play Sunday, right? They haven't said it yet. I'm telling you, I think it's a 50-50 shot that he does not play on Sunday. I think it's 50-50. You missed yesterday and today's practice. Tomorrow and Saturday are last minute installment walkthroughs, which means that you would not have been on the field since Tuesday, and you would have had two practices, Monday, Tuesday, and then the rest of the offseason, nothing. That's and I'm going to just get on the field on the first game, and you go out there and just ball. And like, what are we doing? Does that sound logical to you? You have two practices, and now you're good to go for a game when you haven't played football for over a year. Where does that make sense? I feel like they're slow rolling this whole thing of he's not going to play Sunday by no, he's practicing a little bit and he's got extra walkthroughs and he's got a little bit more conditioning here and he's gonna spend a little bit more time in the tent. I'm telling you, it's 50-50. He does not play in a game. And if I get that report Saturday evening, Sunday morning, I'm gonna be pissed. Because we've been saying this all off season. It does not make sense that he's not on the field in some capacity. If he's not hurt. If he's hurt, then yeah, you can't play. You're hurt. I get it. But if you're not hurt and you're not on the field because you're getting conditioned, what, he's just running laps without the team? I've been saying it the whole time. It's like, is he hurt? No, he's good. Is he hurt? Because he has a history of injuries. No, he's good. Okay. All right. Oh, you cut Farrell Brown? That's cool. Darren must be healthy. I'm venting. I'll move on. So we've been talking about this Tyreek Hill thing basically since the end of last year when he's basically asserted, "Hey, trade me. You guys ain't trying to win. I'm used to winning. I'm upset," right? Then Tua added fuel to the fire by saying, "Hey, you can't just come back here and say I'm my bad." He kind of stoked the flames. Then the whole media just took it and ran with it, made this whole thing about it. Then it talked about Tyreek not being the captain, him saying, "I'm going to work all off season to make myself into a captain." Then we released the captains, and Tyreek is not a captain. So it was like, I guess the team is still mad. They didn't make Tyreek a captain. All this seems very logical up until this point right now, where Tua says, y'all overblowing it. We good. There's no riff. And in fact, this is what he said exactly. He said, I think people might have blown it out of proportion. We worked on it, and I think the conversation is dead now. I think once people see Tyreek score on Sunday, hint, hint, maybe bet Tyreek to score. We'll get to that in a second. Everyone will forget about that. We're in a good spot, and we've been in a good spot for some time as well. So I'm really happy with that and pleased with that. I speak football, I think, fairly fluently. I don't know what we've been good for some time means. Like, when did he make that statement? A month? 5 weeks ago? It wasn't that long ago because it was during the offseason before the preseason. So I would think maybe a month, month and a half at most. He's like, yeah, we've been good for a minute now. Since when? This is the first I'm hearing of we've been good. Maybe I'm getting the wrong reports. Hey, totally possible. I haven't gotten a we good until right now. And that's after he wasn't named the captain. Because if we were good, I feel like he would probably be a captain. Right? Because isn't like your best player almost automatically a captain? The guy that's been the captain the last 2 years or a captain in the last couple of years, and he's your best player. And now captain, are we good? And then coach being like, yeah, the guys know who they want to be the leaders on the team, and he just wasn't one of the leaders. Like, really? Okay. But y'all good though. I'm telling you. I don't like this is an old saying. I don't come up with it. It's like they don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. That's how I feel is happening right now. I feel like y'all are just saying stuff to me that does not make sense, and then being like, "You got it though." It's okay to say, "Hey, we may have just gotten good like today," or if it's like, "Hey, it's still not perfect, but we're committed to coming together as a team to win, and I look forward to getting him to rock on Sunday." That's cool. Even if you said, "You know what, man? Like honestly, Tyreek and I are in a good place right now," and I think he turned down the captainship. We actually wanted him to be a captain, but he thought I didn't earn it, guys. Let me get it in blood, get off the field. There's a lot of ways you could have said something that I would have been like, oh, okay. Because I totally believe that Tyreek could have still been voted the captain. And then the coaching staff or maybe, higher up the chain was like, nah, we don't want that storyline. And so they kind of deaded it. I can believe that. What I don't believe is, oh, we've been friends for a minute. In fact, we just got off vacation together. Word. And Tyreek hasn't played in any preseason games, so there's no like, oh yeah, we've gotten better on the field. So what, y'all just been talking at every practice while he's not playing about y'all? Like it's hey, we doing this, we not doing this. I'm not hearing it. I'm not I'm not buying the propaganda, Miami. Y'all those first two stories, I don't know. You got me feeling some way. We're gonna move on to Coach Weaver. And I just realized now that the way I organize these are out of order, but it's fine. We'll like that's actually that makes it better. We'll keep it. No fixing in post. So we mentioned the starting lineup for the secondary, and I was surprised that Jack Jones got the starter over Rasul Douglas and Ashton Davis got to start at safety. No question about Minka Fitzpatrick, and I think Storm Duck has earned his spot. Well, Coach Weaver came out today and said, "Hey man, these starting spots are in pencil. These boys are not in pen. This is where they're starting right now. I'm looking forward to see who's gonna finish." I was like, "Ooh!" And in fact, he said more than that. He said those things are still in flux a little bit. I never get concerned about who's starting. I think I've told you guys this before. I just care about who's finishing. Who's finishing plays, who's finishing tackles. That's all I'm looking for. Who are starters? Whatever. I started 99, 100 games. Nobody cares. Win the game. Now, I like a lot of that sentiment. Some of that is also just nonsense words. It's like, wait a minute. Like, we do care who plays to some degree. And yes, ultimately, we should win the game. So, you want to put the best starters on the field to win the game. I get I get where you were trying to take us, coach. Like, I see what you were trying to do. I think you started, you veered off the path a little bit. The idea that just because we name you a starter doesn't mean you can't have that spot taken or the spot is fluid. Totally get it. I don't believe Ashton Davis is significantly better than every safety we have. That's cool. Minka is locked in. I don't care what you say about that. And then even Storm, I feel like is probably good at DB1, but if he moves to DB2, would the world end? I think that people are still kind of okay with that. I assume Rasul Douglas will be in the starting lineup sooner than later. So I think that may have been more of a Jack Jones kind of conversation. Because sometimes you'll see this all year. Coaches will say stuff in the media that's really directed at one player. It's like, hey, I'm talking to you, but I'm talking to you through them. Hey, sometimes guys got to finish plays out there. And then someone will cut a video of a guy running up to make a tackle and not breaking down, and a tackle just running, and a guy running past him. And it's like, well, that guy didn't finish the play. And it's like, is he possibly talking about? Yes, he's talking about that guy. But he can't just say, yes, I wish number 21 would have made a better tackle because that's bad. You're throwing your team under the bus and it's bad leadership. Hey, we want guys out here who are committed to winning. Then it's like, quarterback has a reality TV show. Is he committed to football? Yeah, he's probably talking about that guy. The guy that has split time commitments is not committed. So this may be Anthony Weaver calling out one of the people in the secondary. Not sure who which one. I assume everybody but Minka. But the idea that, hey, from week to week, if somebody plays better than you, they can take your spot. I love it. Y'all know I love a bunch of things. One of them is competition. One of them is 1 year contracts. I love it when you got to prove it to get your money. And I love when you don't feel like, my spot's so secure. I got tenure on this team, basically. I can kind of do what I want. Not here for it. You gotta earn it around here, especially when everybody's on a 1 year deal. You know that if you ball out, you could get extended here. But if you put out good tape, somebody's gonna pick you up, put some money in your pocket. If you don't play well on a 1 year deal, you could be waiting for that injury designation to get on somebody's team, which is the worst thing. You're just in the offseason staying in shape, hoping somebody gets hurt so you get a chance to play. Like you don't want to be in there, but that's what happens sometimes when you're on 1 year contracts. So I didn't know why we didn't have a nickel corner listed. Also, like Jason Marshall wasn't put as our nickel corner, even though it seems like he's going to be the nickel corner. So that was also a little befuddling. But maybe there's push for that position. It's like, hey, he's a rookie. We want to keep him like somewhat humble and grounded. We'll see. But I like the sentiment of what coach is saying. I think he's talking a little nonsensical at some point. Like, you gonna finish that tackle? You want your job? It's like, well, I still think I'm the best player. Maybe I just missed the tackle. That's fine. I appreciate what he was saying. So earn your position, but your position is not in stone. I'm here to see it. I want some competition. I will say this: I don't make a habit of watching the Pat McAfee show. I'm not. I don't think I'm the demographic. I just don't. I don't. I don't vibe with the show like a lot of people do. No issues with Pat or anybody on the show. Just not my cup of tea. I happened to be watching it today while I was at work. I work at a gym, and I saw there was a poll with Peter Schrager. And Peter Schrager is, as you know, very connected, very inside guy. Like he's one of them ones. He's not quite Adam Schefter, but he's not quite far from Schefter. Schrager is one of them guys, and he had a whole list of polling of like where team fans' optimism ranks from 1 year to the next. And this year, the like Bronco fans were like 99% optimistic, which is crazy. And he kept panning down. I was like, where's the Dolphins fans? And he got down to the bottom like 5 or 6 teams. And the Dolphin fans had an 18% optimism feeling about this upcoming year. And I thought that was staggering. We were barely above the Tennessee Titans, who literally had the number one pick in the draft. That's how pessimistic the team is. I mean, that chart was like not, it was a giant. I was like, wow, that is 4 out of 5 fans are like not feeling this year. And I did not realize the numbers that got in that skewed. And again, I don't know how official the polling was. I don't know who did the polling. I know most teams, like the Jets, I think were around 56% optimistic. I'm like, the Jets have 3 times the optimism that we have. The Jets with Justin Fields, who has honestly never been good in the league. I actually am okay with Justin Fields as a player. I don't care about the Jets, obviously, but as a player, I root for Justin Fields. I think he has talent. If he could put it together, he can maybe do something. They got tripled the optimism. How? They won 7 games last year with Aaron Rodgers, playing the whole year, and Devontae Adams, and they got that much optimism. And I was like, I wonder if this is like how sometimes you can like prime somebody to feel away. You just kind of keep putting it out there, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, this is bad. Like The media has been so negative against Miami, literally since the end of last year until now, that I think that some of the fans were probably like, hey, Dolphin fans is like long suffering. We haven't won a playoff game in 25 years, like the normal Dolphin stuff. And then when every story is so and so is hurt, two was not good, Coach McDay on the hot seat, Chris Greer on the hot seat, Tyreek doesn't want to be here. Oh, your draft was terrible. You got a C in the draft. Like I think when you do 7 months of all season and it's all negative, I do think that lowered the optimism score for some of the fan base because every fan base is a little bit irrational. For those of you who follow me on TikTok, I've been going around the league doing like my own personal reviews of other teams and talking to their fan bases just because I think it's an interesting exercise to figure out, hey, this is how I see your team as not a fan of your team. And I'm not gonna lie to you, 80% of the fan base are like, dog, you're spot on, which makes me feel really good about my football knowledge because I don't know all the personnel, but I watch a lot of football, one for this, but also just in general. I'm like, hey, I know enough players in the league that I can say some, minor things. And then some of the fan bases are like, oh, we actually got a new defensive coordinator. He's from this school and this we're gonna switch to a 3-4. I'm like, oh, didn't know that. Thank you for the information. But for the most part, they're like, hey, you're spot on. But I do think if one or two things fall in place, we can get a couple more wins. Like we could probably get to 10 wins, and not you said 8, which is more likely. But they're giving me all this like sugar coating to how their team can be better, which I appreciate because I like knowing other fan bases. So that means that your fan base, which is definitionally fan is fanatic, right? When your fan base is that pessimistic, that's scary because fan bases are delusional. So if I'm delusional and we're still at 18% optimism according to this poll, then what's the reality of what the team is? That really like I was at work. I legit pulled my phone out. I said, I gotta make a mental. I gotta make a note of this. This has to make the show because what is that? Like their teams. I think the Saints had the lowest score, as they should. And Saints fans, by the way, attacked me on social media because I was like, I don't like your team. You guys suck. They're like, we're good. You just don't know. I'm like, you're not. You have the worst cap situation. I've been on you. I've been on y'all for 9 months. I'm never getting off. I'm anti Saints, but we're barely above the Saints and the Titans, and like we're at like the fifth or sixth lowest optimism score. And my hope is during the show, I try to be fairly impartial as a fan. I'm obviously a fan. I said we're gonna win somewhere between 8 and 10 games. I think Vegas has that 7.5, so I'm above what Vegas thinks, but you know, by a game or two, I don't think it's crazy. And I'm also betting on Tua being healthy, which Vegas obviously is betting against. But hopefully we can start turning that fan base around a little bit. Let's get a little bit more optimistic because you can't go into a year 4 out of 5 of your fans being like this year is going to suck while spending the money we're spending, while having the personnel that we have, while having the stakes that we have. That is, I don't know. I mean, I think the team feeds off of that. Imagine they come to a game trying to get a dub and they come to fan bases sitting there half full. Like I used to live in Jacksonville and the Jaguars stadium would have quarters of the stands completely like tarped off because they weren't selling enough tickets. So you would go to the game and you would look up, it's like, wow, that's a couple hundred seats, couple like just complete. They would put a giant Jaguar logo on the seats. You could probably even Google this at some point. But games would get blacked out in Jacksonville for Jacksonville games because no one was going to the games. They would be showing the Chargers of San Francisco. I'm like, are the Jags playing right now? Yeah, no one's there. The field's tarped off. No one's like that's what happens when your fan base gets so low that you stop selling tickets. They start blacking your games out. They start tarping the field, and then at some point that dissension overrides into the year. Then you start getting that infighting. You start getting those little arguments, those little leaks. Locker room's a little toxic according to my sources. Who are your sources? Somebody close to the team. It's somebody on the team. Yeah, I hear like somebody so and so blew up and there may have been an altercation. I'm like, oh geez. You start seeing those little seeds and they start growing and festering, and that's how it's fan bases and teams like start tearing apart from the seams. Where it's like I'm hearing all this negative stuff, and then I'm reposting and talking about the negative stuff, and then they had to ask, hey, was there a fight in the locker room? They got to talk about the story of the negative stuff. It just starts going the wrong way. I am optimistic about how this year can go because I think the team can be healthy. I think the defense is going to be a lot better than people think. And I think that the Dolphins can make the playoffs. 10 and 7, 7 seed. maybe 6, depending on how that goes. Very much in the cards. Let's make it happen, and let's turn the optimism around. I want to see a new poll in a couple weeks saying, "All right, we're up 25%." Like, all right, at least get a quarter of the fans. Like, what are we talking about? 18% is crazy, but we'll see what happens. Looking forward to the year. Let's turn that frown upside down. So cheesy. But as always, guys, thank you for tuning in to Dolphins Daily. We appreciate the love and support. We are at 1.93K followers. I still want to get to 2K by Sunday's game. We have an outside chance. I know you guys have been crushing it with the viewership. So if you enjoyed the show and you haven't subbed, why not? Get on your sub game. I want to hit that 2K by kickoff. And then we do that first show from 2K. And then we just go to infinity and beyond from there. But we appreciate the love and support. We'll see y'all next time on Dolphins Daily. Peace.